Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, slashers, demonic children and skinheads. It's my monthly wrap-up for June. So normally in these videos I do all of the books I've read in the month, but I've read a shitload of books this month. I think I read about 29 books this month. And 10 of them were westerns, so I've done a separate video which went up yesterday where I talk about the westerns that I read for June on the Road. So if you're interested in watching my thoughts on those, check that video out. I'll try and remember to link to it up there or up there, whatever side it is. But today I'm going to focus on the non-western stuff that I read. So I think there's, as I say, I think there's about 19 books, so it was quite a busy month for me reading wise. I read some really fun stuff, so I will go through the books that I read that weren't westerns in order of least good to most good or most enjoyed. My favourite book of the month overall was a western, so you'll have to check out the western video if you haven't already to see what that was. But yeah, normal format for this. So I'll talk about the books, and then I'll talk about a bit of channel stuff. So let you know what you may have missed in the week that has just gone, and let you know what is likely to be coming up in the week ahead. Although, as always, that is subject to change if some other idea pops into my head. Right, let's crack on with the books then. So I've got a stack of paperbacks in front of me here. Quite a few of the books I read this month I did read on Kindle. So this was a month where I took out a Kindle Unlimited subscription again for the first time in ages, and I've enjoyed delving through some of the horror stuff that's available on Kindle Unlimited. So yeah, there's quite a few Kindle books this month. So in terms of the worst book I read this month, that was a Kindle book, and anyone who watches the channel or has watched the channel over the last month or so will probably be able to guess what it was. It was Way of the Shadow Wolves by Steven Seagal and some other author whose name I've completely forgotten now and don't really care about. So it was a really terrible book, and I did a video all about how terrible it was. So both from the perspective of just being really badly written, but also from the perspective of having some really unpleasant conspiracy theories kind of embedded in it about the deep state. And plots by President Obama to smuggle Muslim terrorists into the USA. It was just a deeply awful book in every sense of the word. And as I say, I've done a complete video about it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Let's move on. So the next worst book I read then was The Happy Hooker by Xaviera Hollander, which was quite interesting. And I'll do a review video on this for my Countdown to Garb August series, which is what I read this for. So the memoirs of a very famous or infamous prostitute and madam, published in the early 70s. When was it published? 1972. So co-written by Xaviera Hollander and a couple of kind of ghostwriters, Robin Moore and Yvonne Duffer. I think it's Duffer. It's very difficult to read on this creased old cover. So basically it's Xaviera Hollander, who's this Dutch woman who was born in Indonesia, I think, but lived in the States, talking about her experiences as a prostitute and her rise to being apparently the most successful madam in New York. So there was definitely some interesting stuff in here. But she has a different take on life than many people, but basically it was just lots of descriptions of sex. So if that floats your boat, then feel free to grab a copy. But if not, I would almost certainly recommend avoiding it. It did sell apparently 6 million copies. It was, she was phenomenally famous in the 70s. And I'll talk a bit about that when I do my review of it. But yeah, it was a bit of a slog, to be honest with you. Next after that then, so The Island by Peter Benchley. So I forgot to say at the start, so as well as taking part in June in the Range, I took part in a couple of other reading events this month. So Summer Slashers, run by losing my brain. Summer Slashers run by Kelsey at Slime and Slashers. and the Scary Sleepover Weekend, which was arranged by Alex at the Bookubus. So one of the prompts for Alex's Scary Sleepover was to read a popcorn book. So I thought, Peter Benchley, Jaws, classic popcorn cinema. So I read The Island, which is a later Peter Benchley novel. I think he wrote it a few years after he wrote Jaws. This was a really strange book. So it's about a journalist who travels around kind of the Caribbean islands, trying to figure out why loads of boats have disappeared. So basically, there's been a big spike in disappearances of like small pleasure craft and things like that, which no one seems to be paying attention to. And he travels there with his son, so knowing that there's kind of danger, and all these people have disappeared and never been seen again. He decides to take his young son with him because he's divorced and he's got his son for the weekend. And it turns out there is, and you find this out fairly early on in the book, so it's not really a spoiler. There are the descendants of pirates who are living in this strange kind of pirate lifestyle on one of the islands, and basically, taking boats and killing the inhabitants and robbing their stuff. So they live in this strange kind of backwards way. They have very strange rules about how they do things, and they don't hold with modern weaponry and things like that. So all in all, it was just a bit weird. And there's one scene in particular which just I've got no idea why Peter Benchley thought it was necessary to put this scene in a book. It's a scene where, again, this is a bit of a spoiler, but it's not a huge spoiler. So the hero of the book, this journalist, has been kind of captured by these pirates, and one of the pirate women decides to give him an enema. It's like there's just no reason for that bit to be in the book. It was all very strange. So it was entertaining. It was entertaining, but there were a lot of strange bits, and it wasn't that great. And there's also just a real fascination with guns. So, I've talked a bit about the fascination with guns in the States as part of my discussion of westerns in Junior on the Range, but there was loads of kind of gun fetishism in this book as well. Right, next after that then was Cirque Berserk by Jessica Guess, that's right, that was her name. Yeah, so Cirque Berserk by Jessica Guess, which was one of the Kindle Unlimited books I read. So this was a slasher for Kelsey's Summer Slashers event. So this was okay. So it's about a bunch of kids or teenagers who go to this abandoned carnival and get picked off by a slasher. It was kind of exactly what you'd expect. It was by no means an interesting new take on the genre or anything like that, but it was an entertaining read. Next after that then, so I read, and again I did a separate video on these, so I read all 5 of the Omen novels. So I've got 4 of them here, so I've got 4 that basically I ranked all the same in my rankings for the month, those being the 4 sequels. So Damien Omen 2, the novelisation written by Joseph Howard, The Omen, The Final Conflict novelisation by Gordon McGill, and then 2 further books by Gordon McGill which continue the story but are not based on movies. So Omen 4, Armageddon 2000, and Omen 5, The Abomination. So I've done a full review video on the series, but it was really entertaining. I did enjoy it a lot. It's kind of, if you've seen the movies, you know what to expect. So, the Antichrist born in human form, and his struggles against the world and various people trying to kill him. So yeah, they were fun, kind of demonic horror reads. And the continuation of the series, post the 3rd movie was quite well done. So I did enjoy those. After those, a bit of British trash from the 70s. And again, I've done a video on these, which went up last Thursday, or Thursday just gone. So Skinhead by Richard Alllen. So a book from the early 70s about a teenage skinhead and his gang of mates going around terrorising people in London. Deeply unpleasant in many, many ways, but an interesting cultural artefact, I think, and quite an entertaining read. In a similar vein, slightly ahead of that, Guardian Angels by Mick. So another book from the New English Library in the 70s that cashes in on kind of popular culture or youth culture. So in this case, the Hells Angels. So this book about a gang of Hells Angels hired to act as security for a rock tour that's happening in the UK. Lots of sex and violence, lots of descriptions of Hells Angels just being unclean basically and having poor personal hygiene, but again very, very entertaining and quite interesting, as a kind of slice of 70s trash. Ahead of that then was the sequel to Skinhead, so Suedehead, also by Richard Alllen. So I preferred Suedehead slightly. So in this book, the hero or the protagonist of the first book, Joe Hawkins, he's been in prison, he's got out, and he's kind of trying to go straight. He's not really trying to go straight, but he's trying to appear to go straight. So there's lots of stuff about him trying to scam social workers and things like that, and getting a steady job and that kind of thing, whilst also committing acts of violence in his spare time. So I thought it was a more interesting book than Skinhead. There's a nice kind of tension between Joe's kind of 9 to 5 life and his leisure time, if you like. So that, I thought that tension worked really quite well. So I slightly preferred it to Skinhead, but still by no means a great book. Slightly ahead of that then was The Omen by David Seltzer, so the novelisation of the first movie. So I preferred this to the other ones. David Seltzer also wrote the screenplay for The Omen, so he had an interesting take on the novelisation, and it felt like a particularly well done movie novelisation as a result. So as I said, you know what to expect if you know the movies, but it was an entertaining read. Just ahead of that was another Kindle read. So this one that the author sent to me. So The Final Women by Pardeep Aujla, which was a fun serial killer book. So a book about a series of like spree murders committed by a Jason from Friday the 13th type character, and various so these have occurred over a series of years, each having a final girl. The final girls have now grown up and are final women, and the killer has returned, and it's about them kind of banding together to take him down. So a really fun book, but also an interesting kind of reflection on the slasher genre. So I did enjoy that a lot. Very slightly above that was From Below by I've forgotten the name, Darcy Coates. So the Queen of Cozy Horror. So this was really good, and I might do a full review on this. I haven't filmed one yet, but I'm trying to gather my thoughts and see if I've got enough to say about it to justify a review. But basically, a haunting story, but about a sunken ship, and about a group of documentary filmmakers and divers who dive down to the wreck of the ship to film it and find all sorts of nasty goings on down there, but it also kind of weaves in the backstory of what happened on the boat. So it was a very entertaining and enjoyable read, really gripping, really fun, and quite sweet in a way in terms of the relationships between the different characters. So I can definitely see why Darcy Coates has got the strong reputation that she's got amongst people who like that kind of feel good horror. It's the second book I've read by her, and I've really quite enjoyed both. Right, slightly ahead of that then, so 2 more slashers that I read for Kelsey's Summer of Slashers. So Camp Slaughter by Sergio Gomez, so a really grimy, nasty slasher novel, and Taste Like Candy rather, by Ivy Tholen, which was a much more colourful, kind of fun slasher novel. So I've done a kind of joint review of these two. I really enjoyed both. So as I say, Camp Slaughter was really gruesome and horrible. So about this kind of Goliath of a killer, Ignacio, who like wears the masks, wears the faces of his victims as a mask, and just kills tons of people basically. So that was horrible but fun. And Taste Like Candy was about again, like Cirque, Berserk, so about a group of teenagers going to an abandoned carnival. But the relationships between the different teenagers were just really well done. So like From Below, the Darcy Coates book, a book that really made me invested in the characters, and as a result was more gripping and more entertaining than it would have been otherwise. So yeah, a really fun book. I enjoyed that a lot. Slightly ahead of that then was Turn of the Screw by Henry James, so a novella that I've been meaning to read for ages. So I read this for the Scary Sleepover weekend, so one of the prompts for that was to read a spooky story. And this was a great read. Oh, I forgot to say actually for Scary Sleepover Weekend. So the Darcy Coates book, one of the other prompts for Scary Sleepover Weekend was to read a cosy book. So the Darcy Coates book was what I read for that weekend. For that prompt. So yes, Turn the Screw was just fantastic. I mean, I've seen both the movie adaptation, The Innocents by Jack Cardiff, which I think was from the 60s. And the recent Netflix adaptation, or it's not really an adaptation, is it? More a reimagining, I guess, because it changes a lot. But The Haunting of Bly Manor, both of which I enjoyed. So I completely knew the story, but it's still really well done. It's really spooky. So the story about this governess in a kind of not quite deserted, but there's not many people there, in this manor, looking after these two creepy children who have, there's these ghostly figures that appear that have some kind of connection to the children. So yeah, a really, really creepy, clever ghost story, and I can understand why it's got the strength of reputation that it has. It really was very good. So my favourite non-Western book of the month then was My Sweet Audrina by VC Andrews, or Virginia Andrews. So I read this for Kelsey Hooked on Books' VC Andrews read along reading group she's got going. A lot of other people in the group didn't particularly enjoy this one, but I thought it was fantastic. It's so trashy, so over the top, so melodramatic. There's a lot of problematic stuff in there. So there's a lot of kind of descriptions of disabled characters, which are frankly quite unpalatable. There's a lot of strange discussion of kind of sex and sexual violence. There's a lot of victim blaming and things like that. But it was just so over the top, so twisty and turny, so the dialogue is just so crazy at times. I really enjoyed it. So it's about this this kind of teenage girl called Audrina, or young girl at the start, and it kind of follows her growing up, who lives in this dilapidated old house with her parents, her aunt, and her very annoying, very horrible cousin. And her parents had a previous daughter also called Audrina, who died, who they are constantly comparing Audrina unfavourably to. And it's just about her trying to untangle the mystery of the kind of past of her family, and also her kind of coming of age story. So yeah, a really over the top VC Andrews story. As I say, very problematic in many ways, but I really, really enjoyed it. I laughed out loud at many points in a way that I don't think VC Andrews meant me to, but I really loved that book. So currently reading then. So I got this video obviously is going up on the 2nd of July. So I have read one of my July books already. So whilst this is a June wrap up, let me also do my weekly wrap up. And the one book I've read this week outside of July was Woman Eating by Claire Kohda, which I read yesterday. So I read it, despite the fact I worked yesterday, I managed to read this whole book. It's really, really readable. I mean, it's not long, it's like 250 pages long. But yeah, I started it after finishing work and finished it before I went to bed. It's really good. I enjoyed it a lot. So this was a book I got with the Abominable Book Club in their June box, and it is a very modern vampire story. So about this young woman called, my gosh, I've forgotten her name, called Lydia. So told from her perspective, she's like an art student or an art graduate who's got an internship at this art gallery, this very prestigious art gallery, and she's moved to London as a result, but she's also a vampire. And she's been raised, as a vampire by her mother, who's now suffering from dementia and has had to be put into a home. And it's just about Lydia trying to come to terms with living on her own as a young woman, but also as a vampire. It was it was really good. So again, I think I will do a full review of this. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I expected to. It's definitely not a book I think that every horror lover will enjoy, because it is, it's more literary fiction than horror, I would say. But there was a lot in here that I really liked. So yeah, I will do a review of it. But so far it's my favourite book of the month because I've only read one so far in July. But yeah, I thought it was really good. And currently reading, so as I said in my July TBR, I'm doing a buddy read with Brad Proctor for The Terror by Dan Simmons. So reading that on my Kindle, started it this morning, and I'm about 90 odd pages in so far. It's really good. So, it's got a reputation. It's a big book. It's like 900 pages about this, doomed expedition to the Arctic. But it gets right in there with the horror. It's really atmospheric, really creepy. I'm really enjoying the characters. So the characters are very well written. So yeah, thoroughly enjoying that so far. And whilst it is a big book, it doesn't feel at the moment like it's going to be a slog. I'm very much enjoying it so far. Okay, so channel stuff now then. So firstly, incredibly, in the last week I've tipped over the point of 2,000 subscribers, which whenever I hit one of these milestones, I scratch my head and I can't figure out why. Maybe it's just sheer volume of videos that I've been putting out, but yeah, I mean, if you are watching this and you are a subscriber, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. It's quite incredible to have that many people subscribe to the channel. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do something to mark the milestone. I have done in the past, so I did for 500 subs, I think I did a giveaway and a Q&A. At 1,000 subs, I did a Q&A. At Q&A. At 1,500 subs, I did a giveaway. I'm not sure if I'm going to do anything for 2,000. I might wait for the next milestone before I do something. But sincerely, thank you very much for subscribing and watching, everyone who's out there. I really do appreciate it. So in terms of stuff that has been on the channel in the week just gone. So as I said at the start, I did a separate video talking about the westerns that I read in the month for June on the Range. So check that out if you like westerns. On Thursday, I had a couple of review videos go up. So I did a kind of joint review of two of the slashers that I read, so Tastes Like Candy and Camp Slaughter. And then in the morning, I had a video on the New English Library kind of trashy pulps about youth culture, so Skinhead, Suedehead and Guardian Angels, which I really enjoyed filming. It was quite an interesting thing to talk about. I do think that's an interesting kind of period of British popular culture. On Wednesday, I did a library tour of all the Ian Rankin books that I've read, most of which were Inspector Rebus books. And then on Tuesday, I did the 2022 Summer Book Bay tag, which was started by MJ Reading This Life. And on Monday just gone, I did my July TBR. And on Sunday, for Sunday Bollocks, I did a video about cosy books, which people seem to have quite liked. So that's one that's got quite a lot of views. So again, that was something I found quite interesting to talk about. In the week coming up then, I think I'm probably not going to do a video at all on Monday. My Sunday Bollocks video tomorrow is going to be about disposable books. And Tuesday I'm doing, I think I'm going to do the Why Haven't I Read This Book tag, which was created by Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads, based on an original video by Crystal at Fibre Artsy, both of whose channels I absolutely love. On Wednesday, I've got my I'll do a library tour of my books by Ian Banks and Ian M. Banks, who are the same person, but one under one of the names he published kind of general fiction, and on the other one he published science fiction. On Thursday, as I said, I'm probably going to do a video of a revideo. I've invented a new term. I quite like that. I like terms that collide two words. So a review video of Woman Eating, and also for Countdown to Garb August, one of The Happy Hooker. The Happy Hooker. And then on Friday, I think I am due an Abominable Book Club box sometime this week. So if that comes on Friday or by Friday, I'll probably do the unboxing video for that on Friday. If not, it'll probably be the following Monday. Right, time for me to pluck a random book from my shelves and talk about it. So today I have the Eiger Sanction by Trevanian. I don't know, never know how you pronounce his name. So I've never read any books by him. He was huge. If you don't know him, he was huge in like the 70s. So he wrote a kind of Japanese themed thriller called Shibumi. He wrote The Eiger Sanction, which was filmed with Clint Eastwood, and I have seen the movie, albeit it was when I was a kid. But I seem to remember it was pretty good. And he wrote another one called, I think, The Loo Sanction, which is a strange name, but I assume the Loo is another mountain or something like that. So yeah, this is a mountaineering thriller, which is supposed to be fantastic. And I do like a good old-fashioned thriller. So at some point, I'm definitely going to read this. And I do want to read Shibumi as well, because that's supposed to be excellent too. But yes, have not read it yet. So yeah, if you have read it, let me know in the comments. And if you've got this far, then leave a mountain emoji in the comments for me. Okay, so as always, thank you very much for watching. Thank you again for being a subscriber. If you are a subscriber, to have got over 2,000 subs is pretty amazing. But yeah, as always, thanks for watching. Hope you're safe and well. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.